Hello, thanks for joining us today for our parent chat. We're going to be talking about how to create a calm down spot at home. My name's Connie Gross, and I'm an infant and early childhood mental health consultant for the Children's Resource Center in Bowling Green, Ohio. And today we're going to take a look at creating a calm down spot at home, why we should, some tips for success, and even some examples of what that might look like. A calm down spot is just a place that you identify in your home where your child can go when they're feeling upset. And it's a really great strategy because a calm down spot teaches your child about self-regulation. When any of us get upset, we go down to that red part of our brain, that fight, flight, or freeze mode. And when we're in that brain state, that survival state, we're not able to be good problem solvers. We're not able to think logically about the situation and come up with possible solutions. That happens in the green area of your brain. And so the calm down spot really helps your child when they're in that red state just to get calm, get their bodies regulated so that they are able to move up into the other states of their brain and ultimately up to the green state so that they're able to problem solve and think about solutions to the situation that has gotten them so upset. There's a lot of really great things that can come from using a calm down spot at home. One of them is that it helps your child feel safe, and that's because it's predictable. When we use a calm down spot every time our child gets upset, it becomes something routine and they know what to expect, and so that helps them to feel safe. It also increases their ability to problem solve because, again, we're helping them get calm so that they're able to access that part of their brain. It teaches them new ways to handle anger. And this is really a great example because when a child does get angry and they're down there in that survival state, they're not thinking so much about their actions. It's more thinking fight, flight, or freeze. And so they might be more likely to be aggressive when they get angry or say things that they don't really mean. So teaching them about walking away and getting your body calm, doing some things to take care of yourself is a great strategy so that they're better able to solve problems as they come. It also helps them to label emotions. And this has a lot to do with the way we interact in the calm down spot, but it also can have to do with the tools that we supply in the calm down spot. And we're going to talk more about that. But when a child is in the calm down spot, this is a great time for you to even say to them, it looks like you're feeling mad. Your eyes look like this and your mouth looks like this. You really wanted more time to play or whatever the situation is. So it starts with you labeling their feelings, but also you might include some feelings visuals so that they can start to label their feelings or just point to visuals as they're maybe not ready to talk yet. It also helps children learn about what behavior is expected of them. So when we kind of teach that routine idea that when you get really upset, you don't necessarily hit, kick, yell, but we come over to our calm down spot and we work together to get our bodies calm so we can work through the problem. That really helps our children understand what we're expecting of their behavior when something doesn't go the way they're hoping. So there's some things for you to think about when you're thinking about a calm down spot at home. The first thing is that you really want the calm down spot to be comfortable, keeping in mind that this is about self-regulation and the goal is to help calm your child down. This is very different from timeout, which is punitive and meant to deter behavior because of a punishment. This is all about helping their bodies get calm. And so we want to find a place where they can sit comfortably or possibly even lay down if they choose to calm their body down. The second thing to consider is room for two. It's not uncommon for young children to be co-regulators, which means they may often need a grown-up to kind of help them calm down. And so setting up a spot in your home that it has room for both of you can be helpful. And that way you can attend to your child and give them what they need during that time. The third thing here is that as a grown-up, we really want to try to limit our words because that's the way we solve problems generally is by talking things out. We're often very inclined to do lots of talking when someone's upset, but talking can escalate someone who's in their brainstem. So we really want to just pause on the words. We'll have an opportunity to talk about those teachable moments once the child's calm. Right now, the goal is to get them calm. So we're going to try to limit our words. And then the second thing the grown-up can do is model deep breathing. This is really good for two reasons. One reason is that it's very difficult to stay calm when a child is maybe yelling or saying things we don't like or doing things that we don't like. And so taking deep breaths does help us stay calm, which is really important. But the other thing is that modeling deep breathing will encourage the child to take deep breaths themselves, which will help them to calm down. So just taking some deep breaths in, meaning that you're breathing out longer than you're breathing in. So taking some deep breaths, the child will then start to pair their breathing with ours, and that will assist them in calming their bodies down. The third thing an adult could do is rocking and repetition. Research shows that that's proven to be soothing. And when we hear that, we might think, well, that means we have to pick up the child and rock them. But that's not always true. There might be some children who do like to be rocked when they're upset. And if you're comfortable doing that and your child wants that, that's great. There also might be some kiddos who don't really like to be touched when they're feeling upset. And that's really normal too. Rocking and repetition could be used without even touching the child. Just sitting near them and rocking your own body in a rhythmic way within their line of sight can be very calming. You could also just gently rock your leg or even tap your leg in a rhythmic way, as that will help to soothe the child, totally without touching them. If they're open to being touched, it's often calming if someone would grab a child's back or even just gently scratching down their spine, gently scratching down their spine. That oftentimes will help calm a child if they're open to being touched. Again, if they would prefer not to be touched, because our goal is self-regulation and helping them calm, we don't want to do anything that we know is upsetting to them. The next thing for us to consider is that we really want to think about where we're going to have our calm down spot. We don't really want our calm down spot to be somewhere where the child feels like everyone's watching them. It's not uncommon for children to feel like people are looking at them already if they've done something or said something they shouldn't have. And so thinking about how we can have a spot in our home that won't be right in the middle of the action. So maybe not right next to the TV in our family room, or somewhere that people are needing to walk through. And so that would be difficult if a child is maybe kind of sprawled out there crying and trying to get themselves together. Thinking about how we could have an area for our child that's away from the action, but still very visible, because our number one goal is always to keep the child safe. So like you see in the picture here, this kiddo has sat down at the bottom of their steps at the landing there. That might be an option. Maybe there's a corner or a nook in your house that isn't totally removed, but also not right in the center of the action. And we're going to look at some examples of what that could possibly look like and how you can make that comfortable for them. And then the last thing to consider here is that we want to keep in mind that when we're using a calm down spot, the child's upset and they're not at their best decision making during that time. And so if we have a calm down spot in an area that has lots of things that could maybe be torn down or broken, we want to kind of consider that. So maybe thinking about not having our kiddo sit somewhere where we have lots of little things they're not supposed to be touching anyway, or things that are very fragile or broken. easily broken, because the child might get upset and may act in a way that they would regret later. But in that moment, when they're in fight, flight, or freeze, um, they're just dealing with those big feelings and not really thinking about possible consequences. And so we really do want to set them up for success and find a location that can help them calm down. Here's some examples of what calm down spots could possibly look like at your house. This first one here is just, there was kind of just an open small corner, and you can see these parents did a great job of putting some throw pillows there. They put a blanket there, which is, it is a good idea if you're open to that idea, because that allows the child to kind of get under something, and so they can have a few minutes of privacy to calm their bodies down. They've got some stuffed animals there, which are soft, but are also soothing and comforting to lots of kiddos, and they're able to hug them and things like that. They also have a basket there of some things that a child might want to do, like look at books or draw how they're feeling on that magnet board there. So that's nice too, to also have some alternatives, and you know your children best, so some of the things they might respond to. We can move over to this picture here. We can see that this is really just a tiny spot. They just moved their couch away from the edge of the wall. And so it's just a very small section between the couch and the wall. The nice thing about this is there's plenty of room for a grown-up to sit right there on that couch edge if they need to. And it offers a space for their kiddos to go to calm down. These parents also do have some books there. Looks like they have a stuffed animal beside her. Looks like she might be holding a sensory bottle, which is something for her to kind of look at. And we're going to talk a little bit about those in a minute. And she's got some headphones on, which can be really helpful for if your child's particularly sensitive to loud noises. Having a few minutes of quiet can really help them calm down. Down here, if we look at this cozy cove, they just took a box and cut a big circle out of it and then put some pillows and visuals on the inside. That's really nice because it is disposable, and so you could trade it out periodically as needed. Although I've worked with families who have had their box for quite a long time, because their children become kind of attached to having their own space and really liking that. One thing to consider with this box is that this would probably be the most limiting as far as the adult being able to help with co-regulation there. Climbing inside that box might be a bit difficult for some adults. And of course, you could sit right outside in the opening. And, you know, if you're comfortable with that and you're able to do that, that would be great too. And then the last one here is really simple. It's just again, in a corner, they're used a pillow pit, and they have some things here in the box that helps their child to calm down. So that might include some fidgets or things like that. Some tools to help your calm down spot you might think about including. It's a really great idea to use a feelings visual. There's lots of free printable feelings visuals online. This can be a good thing to have hanging there, so your child could use that to point and possibly communicate how they're feeling. But also it might give us the opportunity to label some feelings and give them kind of a concrete example by pointing at the pictures too. The next thing there is a sensory bottle. These can be calming for you to just turn upside down and watch the things move in there. There's lots of recipes of how you can make them online. They're pretty simple. Most of them include clear Elmer's glue, water, and then whatever you want to put in there. A lot of those have glitter in them, but you also see some pom-poms, some beads, and things like that. It could really be anything you wanted to put in there. A couple things to consider. You should consider gluing the lid closed on the bottle, because you don't really want that leaking, especially because there's some glue in there. And the other thing to consider is that when a child's upset, there's always the chance that they might possibly throw something or toss something. And so you do want to consider saving or using some of the small water bottles. You see in the example here, they're using a pretty small bottle. You definitely don't want to save your big Gatorade bottles, as those will be heavy with all of those objects in there. Below the sensory bottles, you see some pinwheels. A pinwheel is a really fun way to teach deep breathing, and we really do want to spend time teaching deep breathing outside of the safe place. When we're using the safe place, that means our child's upset and they're not ready to learn then because they're in their brainstem. So we really want to teach them about deep breathing when they're calm, so that that's a skill they already have and are able to use it when they're in the calm down spot. So a pinwheel is a fun way to teach them about, blowing out and then naturally our lungs refill. Generally, you can buy pinwheels at the dollar store, but there's also lots of ideas about how you can make pinwheels online. Some other things you could do is save bubble wands from bubbles. When you're all done with the bubbles, keep the wands, and you could wash them and just encourage them to blow pretend bubbles. Same idea, expelling lots of that oxygen, and then their lungs will refill. You could also teach your kiddos about belly breathing. There's a really fun YouTube video called Elmo's Belly Breathing, where Elmo turns into a monster because he gets so mad. And then he takes some belly breaths and he kind of turns back into himself. So that's a super fun way to just pull that video up and watch it and let your children practice along with Elmo. But if you don't have access to the video or you don't really like it, you can always just teach belly breathing by either having your child put their hand on their belly or a stuffed animal or some object. And the idea is that they would breathe so big that it would move their hand or the object. So we want to practice deep breathing daily and maybe even multiple times a day, so that that's a skill they're really able to use when they're feeling upset. The last picture here are just some fidgets that you might put in a calm down box. Some children really have a physical need to express feelings, and sometimes we'll see more aggressive behavior from children who are needing that type of outlet. And so offering a fidget gives them the opportunity to have something physical that they can squeeze or twist and bend to help them calm down. Here are just some examples of things that you might put in a calm down box. You can email me. My email address will be on the next slide. You could email me if you would like me to email any of these resources to you. Just let me know that you saw the video online and are looking for some of these resources. The first is a feelings visual. Again, there's lots of printable ones online, but this has some great visuals and even gives us some body language, which is a really good skill for even teaching empathy, is that children are able to recognize feelings in others. The second resource here are just ideas about what you could put in a calm down spot, or this suggests a calm down box. And so some ideas about lots of the things we've talked about already today. This is a visual about coping skills, so just giving them some ideas of things they could do to calm their body down. It might be squeezing a fidget, thinking about something that makes them happy, taking deep breaths, trying to tense and then relax their body can be calming. And then the last thing here is a visual for breathing. And again, like we've talked about already, there's lots of ways to teach breathing. This is one example. You could teach children to smell the flower and blow out the candle. So this is a good thing to practice. And then when they are upset and they go to that calm down spot, you're able to point to the visual and then model that by doing it yourself, so that they're able to do that for themselves as needed. Here's our resource page. This top line is my email address. Feel free to email me for any type of social, emotional, wellness resources or activities. I'd be happy to help. There's also some resources about the information presented tonight. Lots of this information came from Conscious Discipline, and there's tons and tons of resources on their website. You can also find more information on the Devereaux Center for Resilient Children and Dr. Bruce Perry's Child Trauma Academy website. And then here's some resources about where you can find some printable things to put in your calm down spot. So I hope you'll join us for the next parent chat. We meet every Thursday at 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. And there's also lots of videos on our YouTube channel. So feel free to check those out. Thank you. Have a good night.